Hi everyone! Welcome to my corner of the internet where I get on a soapbox and talk about something nerdy. Today we're chatting about Luocha, the beautiful blonde man who was the first premium 5-star abundance unit released in Honkai Star Rail. For those of us who have been around since the beginning, we've watched as Luocha has fallen from his once held crown as the preeminent abundance unit. Now at the time, most sustain units were either 4 stars or 5-star units that hadn't reached the power levels of modern-day sustain units. Luocha's design put him at the top of the sustaining hierarchy, as his kit focused largely on pumping out large heals to the entire party, with the ability to remove enemy buffs as the cherry on top. However, as time has passed, the value of his kit has waned over the years as newer abundance units and non-abundance healers, looking at you, Hyacinth, have been released, and it's become abundantly clear that sustain units are no longer sufficient, providing only sustain to the team. More contemporary units bring additional team-based synergies that help boost their longevity within the meta to maintain their pull value. Now, that isn't to say that Luocha is by far a bad sustain unit for your team. In his current form, he brings the strong and reliable healing as expected of an abundance unit. The bulk of his healing is done through his talent, Cycle of Life, and his skill, Prayer of Abyss Flower. Using his skill, Luocha is able to restore a large amount of health to a single ally, while also cleansing them of a debuff condition. Additionally, Prayer of Abyss Flower triggers automatically when a team member's health drops to 50% or below, serving as an emergency get-out-of-death tool to prevent a unit from dying. His talent, on the other hand, deploys a healing field, restoring health to the entire party whenever an enemy is dealt damage by your team. This field deploys at the start of a fight when you use his technique, or is activated by accumulating 2 stacks of Abyss Flower, which is gained from a use of his skill or from his ultimate. This means that the vast bulk of Luocha's healing kit is able to be done without the usage of skill points, and somewhat passively as your team takes actions dealing damage against the enemies. In addition to his healing tools, Luocha's ultimate ability, Death Wish, deals a small amount of damage to the enemies while removing a buff on all enemies hit, removing annoying or powerful buffs that could extend the time it takes to clear content. On paper, these strengths appear to be respectable for any abundance unit, owing to the fact that he does everything that you would want from a simple healer. However, as of now, Luocha doesn't have a means of increasing your team's damage from his base kit, and with newer units having been designed with specific niches in mind, such as Lingsha for break teams and Huohuo for teams that seek energy regeneration, while Luocha, not so much, feels only capable of providing lots of raw healing and just that. Even when it comes to SP generation, Gallagher, a 4-star unit released during the 2.x series of patches, is more capable of generating skill points for your team. And to make matters worse for Luocha, current enemy and boss designs have also been designed around buffs and conditions that are unable to be removed, making an entire part of Luocha's kit completely incompatible with the direction that the devs have chosen to go with their fight designs. But all hope is not lost for the blonde swordsman. Being mid could just be a momentary thing, as with the recent wave of updated designs to older units, Star Rail has opened the door to implementing potential changes that could uplift Luocha's current position and carve out a proper niche for the senior healer of the game. Now, for changes I'd like to see. To begin, Luocha's kit, while still playable, shows the wear and tear of units that rolled out at the beginning of the game's life cycle. Namely, the seemingly sectioned off chunks of a kit to save on text length, a problem that could easily be solved by simply rolling together the various parts into a singular trace. The first thing we can change is adding his A2, Cleansing Revival, into the text box of his skill. The cleansing power of his skill does not have to be an entirely different and separate major trace. This could just be used to give Luocha a proper tool instead. We can follow suit by changing his A4 passive, Sanctified, as well. His talent already provides healing to a unit that deals damage to an enemy. Sanctified is what allows the entire team to be healed by the field when an enemy takes damage, albeit at a smaller amount. This is precious real estate that has been dedicated to an effect that already exists in the base kit under the talent, but just applies the effect to the entire team. Let's update the talent to read, when any enemy in the field is attacked by an ally, all allies' HP is immediately restored, rather than what it currently reads as the attacking ally. This creates space in his kit for the addition of a new tool, while also making it so that all allies heal for the same amount when an attack is performed, rather than healing the attacking unit for an additional amount. Even and bountiful healing across the board. And as the final note for the talent, we'll have his field last 3 turns rather than 2, bringing his field duration in line with other units such as Jiaoqiu. And to match the change, we'll have his talent require 3 stacks of Abyss Flowers to be deployed. And last but not least, let's change Luocha's A6 trace, Through the Valley. Interestingly, this trace does not build effect res similar to Hyacinth. Instead, it exists in a magical land that provides a separate effect resistance that no other unit is able to have. Let's bring this trace in line with the others by modernizing it to make Luocha easier to build with the Broken Keel planar set, or if we must, we can simply round out the major trace to resist crowd control effects 100% of the time. Because 70% is just not good enough, and it feels pretty bad. Now, how do we make Luocha useful? Let's make Luocha do more than just heal. Part of Luocha's inherent weakness is the fact that Luocha doesn't do much for the party outside of healing. And we can address this by taking a look at his talent, Cycle of Life, and his ultimate, Death Wish. Using the real estate freed up by the A4 major trace Sanctified, let's add a little extra spice to his talent. When his field is active, allies now gain a 10% increase to their attack, defense, and HP. This allows for them to deal a little bit more damage, while granting a small boost to their survivability as well. And this also avoids stepping into Hyacinth's territory at E0, allowing for Hyacinth to still be the default HP scaling buffer. Additionally, when the field is active, any healing or cleansing provided by Luocha's skill, Prayer of the Abyss Flower, is applied to the entirety of the party, therefore healing and cleansing the entire party rather than just one unit. And to make his ultimate have more use than just providing a simple stack of Abyss Flower, Death Wish is known to remove buffs off of enemies. However, it's evident that developers don't want their cool bosses to have all their cool effects and buffs removed from them, having made them unable to be removed by Luocha's ultimate or similar skills. In that case, we can add a simple application of a debuff, applying either vulnerability or a defense down to the enemy's hit in addition to removing any buffs that may exist on the enemies. And as a finishing touch, we can help carve out Luocha's once held crown as the most SP positive abundance unit, which has been snatched up by 4-star Gallagher. Using his new real estate from liberating his A2 passive Cleansing Revival, we can add a few updates to his basic attacks. As of now, Luocha often uses his basic attacks as his automatic skill trigger, and his field are able to cover the vast majority of healing situations. When using his basic attack, while his field is deployed, Luocha will generate an additional skill point, netting 2 for every basic attack. This should help him keep up with Gallagher and even propel him forward in skill point generation as more turns pass by. When his field is down, to help Luocha redeploy it, now that it requires more Abyss Flower stacks, his basic attack can generate for him 1 Abyss Flower stack. In conclusion, with these changes, Luocha at E0 should find himself being able to keep up with his contemporaries, healing and cleansing the party plenty, while carving out a niche for himself as a healer that can generate skill points for the party, apply vulnerability to enemy units, and slightly buff his fellow team members as well. If we want to better streamline higher levels of investment, we can then follow suit by updating his E1, Ablution of the Quick, to also provide an additional 20% buff to attack, defense, and HP, making Luocha at E1 comparable to E0 Hyacinth, but more well-rounded. And his E2 would then follow suit by creating a shield on your entire party when being used on an ally while his field is active. So there it is, my suggested plan on saving Luocha's relevance in the Star Rail meta, and to give this elegant man a second wind. If you'd also like buffs for this blonde, what would you like to see added or changed to his kit?